FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
My nonfiction story, which is supposed to read like a novel. And we go in the level 3 staging area. You take off all your clothes. Everything has to come off, including if you're wearing contact lenses, they have to come out. If you're wearing an engagement ring, it comes off. You have nothing whatsoever on your body. And you walk through an ultraviolet portal, naked, and then you come into a staging area where you put on surgical scrubs, gloves, you tape everything up, and then you go into the area where you put the spacesuits on. It's a level 3 area. And all these spacesuits were hanging up on the wall, on the cinder block walls. And each spacesuit had a name on it, and the names were the people in the hot zone. Colonel Nancy Jacks, Colonel Jerry Jacks, Dr. Peter Jarling, and so on. And then there was one spacesuit that didn't have a name on it. It was a loner. So the young woman fixed me up in the loner, and I pulled it on and got it all sealed up. And there's a helmet. It's a soft bag-like helmet that goes over your head. And then a big zipper that crosses your chest. It's like a zipper on a Ziploc bag. And you close it shut. And then you plug in and you pressurize with your purified air supply. And the suit tightens up around you, and it kind of billows out, just like an astronaut suit, really. And then we stood and we faced the door going into level 4. And the woman researcher suddenly turned to me and she said, "Where are you going with your notebook?" And I said, "Well, I've got my reporter's notes. I want to take notes in there." And she said, "Well, you're welcome to take notes, but the problem is that your notebook can never come out of level 4. It would have to be sterilized, and it would just be burned up, and it would be a molten lump. There wouldn't be anything left of it." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do?" And she handed me a sheet of flexible Teflon material. And I was to take notes on that, and then that could be sterilized in a chemical bath when we came out. And then the guy said to me, "No pencils." I had a mechanical pencil. He said, "Anything with a sharp tip, forget it. You can't bring it into level 4. Puncture your suit, breach your suit." He said, "We'll give you something when you get over to the hot side." So we walked through these double steel doors, and they slammed behind us one by one, and then we entered level 4, the hot zone. And that day, they were working to investigate an unknown level 4 X virus, a virus that had not been identified or characterized. And at these Army labs, they get these samples from all over the world, blood samples, tissue samples, of people who may have died of a really hot virus. And the researchers are never told where the samples come from or what the circumstances of the death were. But many of the samples come from intelligence agencies, the CIA, whatever. And the researchers are just told it was a male, a John Doe male. He died with blood streaming from every opening of his body. This is what they were told in the case of this unknown level 4X that we were working with. So we go in, and I sat down in front of a microscope, and they were showing me how to do it all and how it worked. And I found out that it's really difficult to get any kind of work done in a spacesuit. You're in a bio lab. If you've ever seen a bio lab or worked in one, it's a lot of delicate manipulation of the hand and little test tubes and all kinds of things. And I was kind of trying to look into the eyepieces of a microscope to see some living cells in a flask. And all of a sudden, something went wrong with my loner spacesuit, and it sort of collapsed around me. And I looked down, and there was something terribly wrong. But my helmet blocked the view, so I couldn't see what was going on. And so I began feeling around on my chest with my spacesuit gloves. And I suddenly realized that I was feeling my bare skin with my spacesuit gloves. My spacesuit had blown open in the hot zone. It had fallen open. It was a crummy old piece of military hardware that didn't have a name on it. And nobody had been taking care of it. The loner was no good. And I stood up with my spacesuit now draping open and air just gushing out of it into the hot zone. And I said to the guy there, "Hey, do I have a problem?" And his face looked very, very alarmed, and I could read his face through his helmet eyepiece. And yeah, I did have a problem. And he moved really fast across the lab, put his gloved hands out like this, and he just kind of closed up the zippers of my spacesuit. And then I felt it tighten and pressurize. And then the question was, have I been exposed to this X virus? that might be drifting in the air. Who knows? We didn't even know what it was, or even if there was a virus in the air. And they tried to calm me down, but at a moment like that, it's really tempting to panic, to just start screaming and allow yourself to be carried away on delicious waves of fear and just beg to be taken out, get me out of here. But at that point, I was now sealed up again and pressurized. And if anything had gotten into my spacesuit, it was now inside there with me, and there was nothing I could do about it, really. So I made an elective decision not to panic. And at that point, the job was get the notes and get the hell out of here. So I did. I continued to ask the questions and all that. And we ended up meeting some monkeys that had been infected with Ebola, but now were okay. And I discovered that monkeys in the hot zone can recognize human faces, even through the helmet of a spacesuit. And the monkeys all knew the researchers, but they didn't know me. They didn't recognize my face, and they freaked out when I walked into the room. And I found the only way to pacify them was to make them offerings of Fruit Loops, which the monkeys were extremely fond of. And then later, I'm standing in the chemical shower, and the chemicals are washing over my suit. And all these thoughts are cascading through my mind. I have 3 children and a wife. And I was thinking, the chemicals, they can sterilize the outside of the suit, but if there's anything alive inside the suit with me, this is like the movie Alien, the chemicals aren't going to do any good. And what does the future hold for me personally now? And I have to tell you that my thoughts were really on my kids, and they were also, you stinking idiot, what did you just do? You just went into level 4 with an unknown virus and a defective military suit. You're an idiot. And also, what about the kids? If anything happens to me, if I break with an Ebola-like virus, who's going to take care of my kids? And that was the very same chemical shower that Nancy Jackson had been standing in when she had a breach in her suit. Now, the breach that I had had was nowhere near as bad as hers. And the researchers explained to me that because the suit had been pressurized and the air had been flooding out of the suit, that it was less likely that something could get back up into the suit where I could breathe it. But nevertheless, there was that question. I mean, if you'd had the experience, you probably would have the same question.